Shut up and sit down.
Hello everybody, Gage from the Attic here, and welcome to Let's Talk Suicide Squad. Now I want to start this video off right off the bat by saying I am not a comic book expert, so if I get some facts wrong, I apologize. It's not going to be perfect. But I've done a lot of research, and I've watched a lot of videos, and I've learned quite a bit. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what these characters are all about, and a good grasp of what the movie is going to be like. And that's another thing. I love movies. I know this channel is mainly known for video games and Let's Plays, but this is just something I wanted to do to kind of break up the monotony, do something different. And as I said, I'm a big movie buff, and I feel this is a good way to do something I feel passionate about, talk about something I feel passionate about. Plus, this is one of my most anticipated movies of all time. So what this video is basically going to be is a character breakdown. Now, I said I was going to do a trailer reaction in the past to the trailer that came out on the DC night on the CW, but I decided to go against that and do this instead, just because I felt like my reaction wouldn't have added anything to the trailer. So, what is the Suicide Squad? From what I understand, the Suicide Squad is a group of supervillains that were put together by a woman named Amanda Waller, who is the warden, or I'm not sure if she's the warden, but she overlooks the prisoners at Belle Reve, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And she decides to put a group together called Task Force X, which is a group of prisoners that she puts together to carry out black op missions for the government that are too dangerous for normal-headed people to do, I guess. And it's a really cool premise. When I heard about it, I thought it was really cool. We haven't really seen anything like that in a comic book universe. This will also be, from what I understand, the second movie in the DC cinematic universe, first being Batman vs. Superman, and this being the second. And I think this is a cool way to introduce all the villains that they're going to be showcasing in the universe. I think it's a cool way to introduce everybody, since Batman vs. Superman is going to be a showcase for all the heroes. So this is a cool way to kind of show off all the villains that are going to be in the universe. And one thing that I think is really cool about the way they're presenting this film is just the logos and the whole big neon thing. I think it looks really cool, and it lends itself to the character that they're kind of trying to add to the film. It's kind of their way of mixing a form of grittiness with a form of also comic book feel, animated feel, kind of, I guess. And it really lends itself to these characters. It's really a great way to showcase everything in the film and the characters. It makes it feel bright like a comic book, but it still feels grounded in reality to me. You know, it's still gritty. It still feels real. And the characters are the most important part of this film. This film hinges on how its characters are portrayed and fleshed out. So first off, let's talk about our first villain. So the first villain we're going to be talking about is Rick Flag, being played by Joel Kinnaman, who we've seen in RoboCop and the TV show The Killing, which I really enjoyed him in RoboCop. I think he's a pretty solid actor. So it's going to be cool to see him portray the Rick Flag character. I don't really know too much about Rick Flag. I just know that there are 3 generations of Rick Flag, and I'm assuming, and everybody else is assuming, this is the newest generation of Rick Flag. And all Rick Flags, I do believe, were soldiers at one point or another. And he is going to be basically the strategist, the tactician of the group. He is the ringleader. He is the one that keeps everybody together. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, to see how this character kind of tries to contain all this crazy, because, I mean, there's a lot of it. It's the Suicide Squad. There's a lot of fucking crazy people in this group. So it's going to be really cool to see how he handles that, to see how his methods of keeping everybody together and keeping everybody on track, keeping everybody mission-oriented. And there was something really interesting that we saw in the trailer, and there's a scene where you see him and Cara Delevingne's character, June Moon, aka Enchantress. What they're doing, I'm not sure. It just kind of looks like she's checking his head for lice or something, or she's petting him. I don't fucking know what the hell she's doing. He's just kind of reading off the list of all the characters, talking about them, and she's just kind of petting them or doodling him from behind. I don't know what she's doing. But there was another scene in the first Comic-Con trailer teaser, whatever they did, and it showed them looking kind of intimate, which is kind of interesting. And I don't want to talk too much about Enchantress right now because she's coming up here in a minute, but it's going to be really cool to see what is going on between them, if anything at all. Maybe it's just a scene and she's just doing whatever. But there was that one scene where they did look kind of intimate, so I don't know if there's something going on between them or what. But speaking of Enchantress, that's the next character we're going to be talking about. Enchantress is probably one of the more interesting Suicide Squad characters, in my opinion. I'm really excited to learn more about her. Her real name is June Moon, and she was kind of an adventurous girl from what I understand, and she went into a cave and found a witch, I guess, a spirit of a witch, which possessed her and gave her these supernatural powers. Now, when some people first heard about this, they weren't sure if they were going to introduce the supernatural powers into the Suicide Squad film because they're kind of magical and they weren't sure if they would go that route. But as you can see, when they've shown Enchantress, they've shown her with this glowing aura, this really cool look about her. So people are assuming that she will have magical abilities. I don't really remember what they are. I think she can conjure creatures and make things happen, I guess. Like, just some crazy shit. And a lot of people are thinking that she might be the villain. That's another thing we're going to talk about later, who the villain might be in this film, because nobody's real sure. I thought it was a possibility. At this point, I'm not real sure. Some things that I've seen have pointed towards yes, while some things I've seen have pointed towards probably not. But I'm not 100% sure. But I know she has a really cool look about her. And here we see her in what looks like the White House. If you look in the background, there's the White House symbol back there. So this was actually one thing that pointed towards, maybe she could be the villain. But as I've said, some stuff has kind of led me away from that. We don't really know the context of what these people were doing in the trailer. It shows a lot without really telling you what's going on, which is really cool. So you don't really know what's going on. You don't know the context and what these people are doing. They're just kind of doing things while they're doing a lot of it. You don't know, why they're doing it or what their motivations are. Nothing like that. But she's going to be a really interesting character to see what happens with that. And supposedly June Moon could at some point can control Enchantress and turn her on when she needs her, so she can go from being creepy voodoo lady to normal June Moon who's petting Rick Flag in the split second. I don't know. But on to our next villain. We're going to talk about Katana. Katana's another kind of cool character, which all these characters are really cool, surprisingly. When you hear about Katana, you're like, oh, she's just a samurai. Well, there's a little bit more to Katana. She's being played by Karen Fukuhara, which I don't know much about her. And her real name is Tatsu Yamashiro. And what's really cool about her, well, I guess it's not really cool, it's kind of sad, but her family was killed by the Yakuza, and after that she trained in the art of the samurai. So she's a trained samurai, which is always really cool. She's obviously going to be deadly with that blade. And speaking of that blade, that's probably the coolest thing about her. It's a weapon called the Soul Taker. Now, the reason it's called the Soul Taker is when she kills an enemy, she takes the soul of her enemy into the sword, and when that happens, she can access that soul and see that person's memories, or something to that degree. So that's really cool. I don't know that much about her. She's more of one of the lower characters, I guess you could say, but she still has some interesting stuff about her. So let's go ahead and move on to our next villain, Killer Croc. There was a lot of controversy with this character because of his look, but we'll talk about that more here in a minute. This actor that is portraying Killer Croc, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name because I feel like I will butcher it. I apologize. I don't know how to say it. I'm just going to be perfectly honest. I don't know how to say it. So, but the main thing that people were worried about was the character's look, which I know who Killer Croc was just from like seeing it, and that's just something I know from liking Batman and seeing stuff about Batman. And I wasn't sure how they were going to portray him, and I thought maybe he was just going to be like a big CGI character. There's a few different versions of Killer Croc, and this Killer Croc seems to be more of the human side. Like, there's some versions that he's just a big crocodile, basically, animalistic. This one is more humanized. He's still got the armor-like skin, but he's not full-on beast, I guess. He still seems human-like, which I think is the best route to go with this character. I wouldn't want to see just a giant crocodile, really. I mean, at some point, maybe, but not for his first introduction. It's just kind of cool to see him here. And Killer Croc's kind of cool. He's got the armored skin. He's super strong, fast, regenerate. He can fast regenerate. He can endure a lot of pain, I guess. His original name was Waylon Jones, but I don't really know too much about his origin. Couldn't really find too much about that. I'm sure it was some sort of weird experiment, human gene splicing or something. Hey, you're a human, there's a crocodile, let's put you two together. Let's see what happens. That might be cool. I'm assuming it's something like that, but I don't know. We'll learn more about him in the movie. Let's move on to our next villain, if you can call him that. We have Slipknot. Great band, but villain, not so much. Now, another character I don't really know too much about. I know his real name is Christopher Weiss, or one version of the character was. I don't know if there's multiple versions or not. And he's being portrayed by Adam Beach, who I did not know right off the bat was Kickin' Wing from Joe Dirt. So that's cool, but other than that, Slipknot is good with, well, ropes. Yeah, ropes. Like, he makes really strong, unbreakable ropes and is good with knots and choking people with them. I don't know. A lot of people think he's just kind of a throwaway character, that maybe he's going to die at some point pretty early on. Some people speculate that maybe Amanda Waller's going to kill him, because in the comics and in the things like that, she implants the Suicide Squad with these bombing devices, and if they don't do what they're told, they blow up. So some people think, well, Slipknot's going to go kaplooshi. I don't know. Kind of makes sense, but I don't know. I really don't know why they would put this character in other than for that reason. Unless there's something cool they have in store, he could be the coolest one ever. Who knows? Next villain we got is Captain Boomerang, and I'm kind of excited for Captain Boomerang. For one, he's being played by Jai Courtney, which, most people would think that's a negative thing. Which, I hate Jai Courtney just as much as the next guy. I haven't really seen anything that I was a fan of that he was in. I didn't mind Terminator Genesis, but he didn't really have anything to do with it. But a lot of people were scared for this film because originally Tom Hardy was going to play this character, and I love Tom Hardy, so I was like, alright, I'm all for that. And then I heard they replaced him with Jai Courtney, and I was like, whoa, that's a big jump. But honestly, from what I've seen, Jai Courtney looks like this might be his best performance, which, as I said, isn't that big of a stretch. But it looks like he's actually showing really good character in this. It looks like I like how he's conveying emotion. I like the character that he's playing. It seems like a really interesting character. Well, I wouldn't say interesting character, but it feels like he's making him interesting, which is really cool. People aren't sure who this version of Captain Boomerang is going to be. It's either going to be a man named Digger Harkness, I think is how you say it, or it's going to be his son Owen Mercer, which kind of makes more sense that it would be his son. And from what I've read about the two different characters, it seems like it's going to be Owen Mercer. And from what I understand, he has a lot of cool different boomerangs that he can use. I'm not sure what they do or what he can do. And I read this and I was a little confused at first. It says he can get occasional super speed, and I was like, well, what is that all about? He's Captain Boomerang. Why would he be able to run super fast? But he was one of the main villains of The Flash, so I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. He would have to be fast, but I'm not sure where that comes from or how that works. I just know that he's really sweet with boomerangs, which, I mean, might seem a little bit silly, but it can be kind of cool. It's something different, you know. Maybe he could throw a boomerang and cut a dude's head off or something. I mean, that would be really cool, which I don't know what this is going to be rated, so that might not be possible. But, you know, stuff like that, it might be cool. And like I said, I feel like from the beginning, I felt like Jai Courtney might do really good in this. David Ayer is really good with actors, so I feel like he'll be able to get a good performance out of Jai Courtney, or hopefully. Or we're going to be missing Tom Hardy. Our next villain is going to be Diablo, or El Diablo. This character, I don't really know hardly anything at all. I've tried to find stuff about him. I just know he's a human flamethrower, which is really cool. And I feel like his character looks cool. He's got a cool presentation to him. Which, I mean, I'm going to say cool for every one of these characters, because from what I've seen, they all look kind of neat, except for Slipknot. He's the only one who I wasn't like, oh, he's cool. I mean, it was cool that it's kicking wing, but that's about it. But Diablo, as I've said, I don't really know that much about Diablo. I know that his character's name is probably going to be Chato Santana, or however you pronounce it. And there are 3 versions of El Diablo from what I've saw, but I couldn't find anything about where he gets his flame powers from. Because the first El Diablo, I'm pretty sure, was just like a Wild West outlaw or something like that. So I'm not really too sure what this character is all about. But I feel like it's a cool character to have in the squad. I mean, obviously, he could put out a lot of offense. I mean, he's a freaking human flamethrower. I mean, how much more could you need? So, there really isn't much for me to say about this character other than that, well, human flamethrower, played by Jay Hernandez, and he's got a cool presence about him. He looks cool. I'm interested to learn more about him. But there was a cool, neat little scene in the movie where you see him getting ejected from some sort of water tank of whatever, and I'm assuming this is the prison's way of detaining his powers. And in the background we see Ike Barinholtz, but we'll talk about him later. Now, let's move on to our next villain. We have the one that everybody is oh so excited for. No, it's not Joker. It's not Harley Quinn. It's Deadshot. People are really excited for Deadshot, and I was too. Mainly just because from what I had seen in the games and other facets where I had seen him, I thought he was a really cool character. Real name Floyd Lawton, being played by Will Smith, which a lot of people were a little bit leery about, and I was too. Like, I was like, okay, cool, Will Smith. But then I thought about it, and I was like, is Deadshot, though? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to buy that. I don't know how I feel about that. But the more and more I see him as Deadshot, and the more and more I see about, or learn about the character, I feel like he's a good fit. The only criticism I would really have is, and a lot of people have said this, he feels too heroic. People are going to like him no matter what they make him do, basically. I feel. Excuse me. But I don't know. We don't know. We won't know until we see the movie. Just the way they've presented him and the way Will Smith has carried himself as this character, though, looks really cool. This shot from the trailer I thought was really excellent. And from what I've learned, he's had this real urge to die in a spectacular way. Like, I guess he wants to go out in a blaze of glory of sorts, which kind of makes it seem like he's kind of this tortured soul, I guess. And to me, when you look at this character, you really get that sense of feeling, the way Will Smith is portraying that character, I guess. It really feels like he is doing the character justice from what I understand. But it's really one of those things where we're really not going to be able to tell until just the movie comes out, and I'm kind of holding back my judgments on it. I'm kind of holding back my criticism because I just don't know. That's with all these characters. This is all really just speculation and opinion from what we've seen to this point. But what I also liked was there's this really cool scene here where you see him again. He still looks weathered and grizzled, but he throws out one of those, you know, funny, classic Will Smith smart-ass remarks, I guess, where he says, you know, what is this, cheerleading tryouts, which I thought was, I mean, obviously maybe it was a little silly, but I thought it was, you know, a nice little moment, kind of. It felt like something Will Smith would do, and that's what a lot of people worried about. It's just going to be him being Will Smith without him being not enough Deadshot. But I feel like he understands what this character is, he knows what this character is, and he's going to do it justice. But I don't know. But let's move on to our next villain, the one, the only Harley Quinn, who is being played by Margot Robbie. And a lot of people to them, this is the number one character they're most excited to see. And it probably is one of the most anticipated in my book too. I'm really excited to see Harley Quinn on the big screen finally. And when I heard Margot Robbie, I didn't know who she was. I hadn't seen one of her movies until afterwards, and the first movie I saw from her was Focus, which I really liked Focus, so I thought that was really cool. I thought Focus was a great movie, and I thought her what the hell is the word I'm looking for? Performance, Jesus H. Her performance was really good, and I thought that was really exciting to see her. And one of the first things you see in this trailer is you see her sipping a cup of tea, reading a Harley Quinn book. So I thought that was really neat, you know. And the way she looks in the film, I think is really cool. From what I understand, it's the new 52 interpretation of Harley Quinn, at least the way the look is based off of, and I think it looks great. You know, when I think Harley Quinn, a lot of people think the kind of checkered diamond design or whatever it is, that picture that as her classic look, but I feel this is a pretty faithful interpretation. I feel like this is really good, and I feel like she has the look. I really do feel like she is a really good person to portray this character, and I feel like the humor that they've given to her is pretty solid. You know, she's got the little pinky up in the air, and then in one scene that I hadn't noticed in the Comic-Con trailer until I was sifting through some images was on her baseball bat that it seems like she's carrying around using as her main weapon. It says "Good Night," which I think is just really cool and really neat. And they had one scene, you know, where she did her funny little thing where she said, "Oh, I should kill everybody and escape," and they're all sitting in the courtyard, and she says, "Oh, sorry," the voices. So I thought that was really cool. I feel like the humor is pretty spot on. Some people think it was cheesy and it should have been more of a legit joke, but they're not legit comedians, really, you know. She's just kind of a crazy psychopath who likes to use silly, cheesy jokes like that to throw people off guard. And we're going to talk a little bit more about her later. There are some hints that we might see a New 52 origin for Harley Quinn, which New 52 is a version of comic books that just recently came out, so I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the next villain we're going to talk about is Mr. J himself, the Joker, being played by Jared Leto, I don't know. Jared Leto is a fantastic actor who has starred in movies such as Fight Club and Dallas Buyers Club, which he just won an Oscar for not too long ago. I think that was a couple years ago. I have not personally seen Dallas Buyers Club, but I have seen Fight Club, and all the other movies I've seen him in have been really good films, and part of that was his performance in the film. He's known for really getting into character and doing method acting, which is a form of acting where basically the actor envelops himself in the character that he's trying to portray. So I think he was a really good choice to play the Joker. And before he was even cast as the Joker, I had seen everywhere that he was like everybody's number one pick. If they were going to do a Joker, it's going to be Jared Leto. Make it Jared Leto. He would do amazing. So it wasn't really a shock when they actually did cast him as it. I just didn't think he would be the actor they picked. And I don't know why. I just felt like they're not going to go with him for whatever reason. But, you know, they ended up going with him, and everybody was really excited. And then the controversy started. They released that first image of the Joker where you see him with all the tattoos and he's got a grill in, or I don't know if you can really consider that a grill. His teeth are just capped. I don't know the difference really. I mean, I guess it's the same thing, but it looks like parts of his teeth are still showing through the silver. So I don't think it's necessarily a grill for the sake of having a grill. I feel like his teeth were repaired. I don't know. You know, it doesn't look like he's trying to be an OG. It doesn't look like he's trying to be a gangster or a punk or whatever. To me, it looks like his teeth got fucking knocked in. And from what I understand, this is going to be later in the DC universe, such as Batman's older, which would in turn probably make Joker older. Maybe they've been fighting for a long time. Maybe they've been in a lot of fights. Maybe Batman kicked his ass a couple times, knocked his teeth in. If he didn't have any teeth, what would you do? You think he'd be intimidated and walk around gumming people? No. Joker would get his teeth capped, I feel. I'm not saying I know the Joker personally. He ain't my next door neighbor. These are all just my opinions. And I feel like defending this look. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not saying you're wrong. Nobody's wrong in this case. It's just an opinion. I personally don't mind it. Do I mind the tattoos? Not really. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a version of the Joker that has tattoos. Not these tattoos, but whatever. This is Jared Leto's version. He wanted to do something completely out of the box to rival Heath Ledger's Joker. Am I saying it's going to rival it? I don't know. I'm not going to make any assumptions until then. But when I look at images such as this, I see Joker. I don't see, oh, he looks silly, oh, he looks ridiculous. I think he looks freaky as fuck. And to me, my version of the Joker was always psychotic. In my head, I always pictured him kind of like the Arkham Joker. And when I look at him, I kind of see Arkham Joker. Maybe not in this image, but that's what I feel. And from what I understand, the suit he's wearing, and this is actually paying homage to one of the comic book versions of the Joker. So I think that's really cool as well. And I'm sure Jared Leto has done his research. I'm sure he knows who the Joker is very well. From what I understand, he basically lived as the Joker while he was on set. And I defend method acting. I think method acting means an actor is very dedicated to what they do. Now, does that mean that it automatically means you're going to put on a great performance? No, it definitely doesn't. But I feel it helps, you know. Some of the stuff that he did on set, like sending a rat to Margot Robbie, they said was a little bit crazy. But I feel like that's what he needed to do. And no, you don't need to do that to be a good actor every time. I'm just saying. But there was this one really cool scene, this scene right here, where you see him jumping off of a ledge somewhere, jumping into what looks like a bunch of tanks or vats or something. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, is this some sort of origin story for Joker? Because one of the versions of Joker was he got into a fight with Batman, he got knocked into a vat of acids, and that's what gave him his pale skin and his permanent smile. But then the next scene right after this, you see it looks more like an origin story for Harley Quinn. You see him pulling her out of the whatever it is. We still don't know what it is. I would assume it's a chemical vat at Ace Chemicals because there was a set photo that leaked at one point of the sign for Ace Chemicals, which is where Joker fell in. And in the New 52 origin story, from what I understand, Joker threw Harley Quinn, or Harleen Quinzel, I forgot to mention, that's Harley Quinn's real name, Harleen Quinzel, threw her into a vat of the same acid that turned him into the Joker, and that's why she also has the pale look, and it kind of drove her insane as well. Which there also was a scene in the Comic Con trailer where you see Joker torturing her, it looks like. So this could just be something else is happening, or maybe he did both. Maybe he tortured her mentally and then changed her appearance physically. So almost basically she didn't have a choice but to become insane, I guess, because that's kind of Joker's MO, is driving other people insane. And we can't be for sure about any of this because we still don't know what the origin for the Joker is, if he is going to even have one, or if he's going to be just another random character or version of the Joker we don't know, or if this is a completely original take. But the next thing I want to talk about was a couple characters we're not really sure anything about. Here we have Scott Eastwood, which when I first heard he was cast, I was like, okay, cool, that'll be interesting to see. What character is he playing? And nobody really knows. I think he has a name attached to him as a character, but I don't remember. But a lot of people think he's going to be playing Deathstroke, or Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, but who is a really cool villain in the Batman stories. I don't really know much about him. He's a super soldier, basically mercenary, I think. And a lot of people think he's going to be playing that character. I'm not sure why, or where that speculation comes from, or where that sprouted from. That's just what people have been saying. So I don't know. Maybe I could kind of see it from what I've seen. I could see him playing Deathstroke, I guess, but I really don't think that's the character he's playing. It looks like he's just kind of a random soldier in the movie who might have some big parts. I don't know. Another character we're not sure it is this guy. I told you we'd talk about him again. Ike Barinholtz, which when I heard he was in the movie, I was like, really? Because he's mainly known for doing comedic movies, but I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, People can go from doing comedic movies to big movies. It happens. Chris Pratt did it, so why not him? So I was like, okay. But then people were saying that they were thinking he was going to play Hugo Strange, which is a really big Batman villain. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, but I just didn't see it. And I still don't see it in the trailers. I really think he's just kind of a random guard here at Belle Rev, whatever. I feel like he's a random guard who kind of likes torturing all the inmates. But who knows? He could become a bigger character. We won't really know until then. But the next thing I want to talk about was, who is the villain going to be? Who is the villain going to be? That is a big topic of debate here when it comes to the Suicide Squad. Nobody knows who the villain's going to be. You know, one minute people are like, oh, it's going to be Enchantress. The next minute people are like, no, maybe it's going to be the Joker. Well, I think the Joker was the first person they assumed because they figured out he's not actually in the Suicide Squad. Which I thought he was at first because I didn't know nothing about it. But then they were like, people were saying he's not actually in Suicide Squad and they don't think they're going to put him in there. So who's the villain going to be? Is it going to be Joker? Is it going to be Enchantress? And Enchantress would kind of make sense. She seems like a character that could easily go rogue and just kind of go out there. But in the trailer, one thing we saw was this. We saw this image of this giant monster attacking this train, and you can't really tell what it is. All you see is this image from the backside. And some people thought, okay, maybe it's a monster Enchantress conjured up. And I'm like, okay, I could buy that. And some people were saying it looks like he has kryptonite growing on him, maybe. Which isn't out of the stretch of the realm of possibility. He could. And it kind of looks like he's got these green crystals all over him. I don't know. But also, from what I understand, the witch that is inside June Moon, the Enchantress spirit, her goal was to raise her brother from the dead, to resurrect him. From what I think I read, that's what it seems like I read. So some people think maybe this is her brother risen from the grave or something, or maybe she succeeded and he's gone crazy. But the theory I subscribe to is that the villain is this man right here. I had heard Common, which is the name of this actor, his name is Common, was cast pretty early on, and I was like, he's a pretty cool actor, I like him, who's he going to play? And then there was all these set images that were leaked of him looking like this, and I'm like, okay, I don't really know who this is, maybe it's just a big character that I don't know. But then the Comic-Con trailer came out, he wasn't there. Okay, whatever, at least I don't think he was. And then you see the new trailer that recently came out, he's not there, or is he? I don't know. I feel like he might be. Some people are speculating that he will be playing a character called the Tattooed Man, or Tattooed Man, who has the power to conjure up these objects based on the tattoos he has on his skin. Some people have kind of compared him to Green Lantern, mainly because he was one of Green Lantern's villains. But just like how Green Lantern can conjure up stuff from his ring, hammers, anything, he can kind of do that with his tattoos. And it seems like that monster maybe could have came from him. Maybe it's something that he conjured up from his tattoos. So, and we haven't seen him yet, I don't think. So I feel like it's him. This might be one of the main villains. But I feel like this person right here, Viola Davis, her character is Amanda Waller. She's looking a little sleepy there. She's got her bored eyes going on. She's not interested in this guy's bullshit. But never mind her uninterested face. She is a devious character from what I understand. She I've heard people say that she might be worse than the people in the Suicide Squad, or she belongs with the people in the Suicide Squad. A lot of what she does is for her own personal interest, her own personal gain. She doesn't have anybody else's better well-being in mind except for her own. So I feel like she's going to be playing a pivotal role in being basically a general shithead in the film. Whether she's going to be a villain, probably not. She doesn't seem like the villain type. But I feel like when it all comes down to it, she's going to be the one screwing the Suicide Squad over. Or something like that. I don't know. I feel like I said, general shithead. She's just going to be a bad chick, you know. She ain't going to be playing by the rules. But I don't know. From what I've seen, Viola Davis is selling this character just like the character is in the comic book. So, I don't know. But the one thing I want to talk about before I end this video is I'm really excited to see this movie, and I can't wait to learn more about these characters. And that's what this film really, as I said before, is going to be based on, is the characters. These characters are the centerpiece of this movie, and the way that they're fleshed out and the way that they're shown off is really important. Their backgrounds need to be told. We need to know who these people are. And a lot of people are worried about that these people might come off as too sympathetic and not villainous enough. But I think we need a level of that. We need a level of human there in these characters. We need to feel something for them to enjoy this movie. Not necessarily to enjoy this movie, but there has to be a level of it. And I'm okay with that. I've always said villains need to have more of a human side, that we need to have some sort of sympathy for them, because a lot of them are sympathetic characters. They come from bad backgrounds, but that doesn't excuse what they did, and we still want them to feel like villains. But I'm going to end this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like, and down in the comments, how about you tell me who you think the villain is, and let me know if you're excited for Suicide Squad. And let's talk about it in general. I'm out of here.